What's good, YouTube? Cardfight King here, Aqua Life Baby. You already know how it is. So today, guys, I wanted to bring you guys, as I told you in my tournament report video, I wanted to bring you guys my brother's Altmile deck profile. We've really been working on this deck after the tournament. I did beat him in the tournament, but that's only because I double healed on 4 damage and I came back with a crit trigger on my Asha turn, so it's neither here nor there. But we've been playtesting a lot of this deck, and this deck honestly just wins a lot of games. It's a really strong deck. It has a very unique defensive mechanic, and I believe that what this deck really kind of tests, for a player is their ability to be able to guard effectively. Know how to take what this deck really teaches you, I feel, is knowing when or when not to take damage, knowing how much damage to take, as well as learning how to guard effectively. Like this deck's unique guarding mechanic, as perceived by Altmile, is being able to use your grade 2s that have increased shielding while you have no face-up damage, to provide extra shielding for you. So I really think that this deck's unique defensive mechanic really teaches players a lesson in really how to guard, and I think it will improve your guarding overall as you kind of carry certain philosophies from this deck onto whatever other deck you are going to be playing. But otherwise, this deck is just powerful. It definitely moves fast. It hits extremely hard. For some reason, the cards for this deck are the cheapest out of the set, and I think this is actually the best deck from the set. But we'll have that discussion another day. But let me go ahead and get into the deck profile, and I'll let you know what we got. So for this profile, I wanted to do something a little different than how I usually do it. Starting off with actually the 3s. So we play 3 Blue Sky Knight Altmile. Now I know some people want to do like the 4 grade 3 build. I know some people do like 6 grade 3s because they pump up their grade 2 lineup. But we did 3 because, one, it improves the consistency of Suleiman, our grade 2. And also, he's actually not a terrible first ride as well, especially if you're going first. He's definitely not a terrible first ride. Getting him to ride with no counterblast on Vanguard or Rearguard with no face-up damage, he gets a plus. He's a 28k beater by himself. So he's still a really nice Vanguard to ride first on Force 2, but obviously riding Aerial Altmile, who we'll get into next, is optimal. But his other skill is that you get to Counterblast 1, discard, and search 2 grade 2s and add them to your hand. Now that can be a little bit more, that can be important because, if you're having one of those hands where it's like just a really bad hand, Altmile, Aerial Altmile can get you 1 from the drop zone and 1 from your deck, but he calls them to the board. This card gets them to your hand so that you can activate cards like Liverot and have them, and have Liverot combo into another grade 2 card. So he does have some usages in most scenarios, even though you'd rather be on Aerial. Blue Sky Knight Altmile is not a terrible first ride. Definitely fantastic with Force 2 as well. And then we have Aerial Divine Knight Altmile. So basically, this is really the boy of the deck. What you want to be on. He turns your grade. When you have no face-up damage, your grade 2s get 5,000 shield, 10,000 power, and if you have another Altmile in the soul, your grade 2s gain an extra critical. Again, using him as your first ride to set up and then going to him is fantastic, but if you can multi-ride him and you already have a decent hand with grade 2s, then you might as well just, and the majority of the time, I would say 85% of the time, you're going to be riding Aerial Altmile. His other, like I said, other ability is use Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, and you get a grade 2 from the drop, and you choose and get 1 out from your deck. Now you do call them to board, so the targets you really want to look for is like Starlight Trumpeter, Suleiman, not Liverot, Lamorak, When there's some other targets that we have in our grade 2 lineup that you'd rather search for. But yeah, so he's a decent card. One of the bigger issues with this deck, which we had to play certain things to address, was the soul problem, because this deck definitely runs out of soul, and you really don't want to soul blast any of your Altmiles while you're on him. So we have a few things in here to help with that. Alright, so for grade 2s, it's actually pretty simple lineup in a way. For Starlight Violinist, easily probably top 3 most important card in your deck. He gives, if you have no face-up damage, he gives your grade 2s the ability to boost and intercept from the back row. Simple yet extremely effective. He is the key piece to your defensive mechanic of this deck. He is what gives this deck the ability to block so well. Then we run 4 copies of Suleiman. Suleiman is a fantastic card. You need 4 of him. On ride, look at the top 7. Call an Altmile to board and shuffle your deck. So he basically searches at your grade 3s. And Vanguard, Rearguard, when he attacks, you can Soul Blast, bounce a card to hand, and he gains 5k. So literally, you search out your Aerial, call him to board, swing with Aerial, swing with him, use his ability, bounce Aerial to hand, and then you secured your grade 3 ride or an additional grade 3 ride. But he's literally a free plus if you can hit the Altmile. So just a fantastic card overall. Then we played 3 copies of Liverot. We cut down on Liverot because, one, he's a card that you have to call from hand, and a lot of times you're calling things from the deck and or the drop zone. But he's also another card that you can ride. Counterblast 1 if you have face-up damage. Soul Blast 1 if you have no face-up damage. Call a grade 2 card from your deck to an open rearguard circle. So that's important to notice, because if you have a full board, his ability is not going to work. He only works if you have an open slot on your board. So you want to make sure that you definitely pay attention to that wording on the card. Otherwise, he's still a fantastic card. Good to get out your, early game, get out your Violinist, get out a Suleiman, get out whatever card you need to get out, and then go from there. This is where I feel like we start throwing in our tech cards. So we played 2 copies of Lamorak. So this is from set 5. I think it was the Aerial Steed set with Gancelot. Basically, he's Counterblast 1, gain 10k. But it's not once per turn, so you can Counterblast 5 and give him 50,000 power if you want to. He's really just in this deck. He's a fantastic booster, fantastic attacker overall. But he pretty much says, okay, have you used all your counterblasts for skills to fill the board? Yes. Okay, give me the rest of your counterblast, pump me up, and then we can just go in. So that's really what this card is for, and we like to get him out of the deck and onto the board early and often, so that we can, so that we have that security of, knowing that we're always going to have face down damage. We run 2 Akanes, and we run Akanes because we run the Akane Pongal engine. Pongal is an extremely important card for this deck because, like I said, this deck doesn't do well with Soul. This deck uses Soul the more you use Aerial Divine Knight Ultimile. So with Pongal, he provides you a free Soul, just on place. And Akane is a Kradu card that you can bring out from the deck or the drop zone. It's just on place. Counterblast 1, search a Pongal from the deck, call it, and then, you do Pongal's ability to soul charge, and if it's a trigger, you gain 5k. She's just a really good card, and we'll get into Pongal more, but she can kind of set up the most explosive turn 3 in this deck. And then as another tech card, we run Knight of Magnificent Lucas. Now, what Lucas is he's simple. He's a 10k intercept. That's it. With Aerial Divine Knight skill, he's a 15k intercept, meaning that he literally counts as an extra trigger. When he's on the board, you have no face damage, and you're going to be guarding with him. So, like I said, your other grade 2 rear guards are going to be 10k shields. This guy is just a tech card. We usually like to put him behind the Vanguard as a Vanguard booster for a 33k column. But other than that, he's a 15k shield. So this just, and because you can search it out, you can get it from the drop zone of the deck, we can keep putting him on the board. He is like a recurring trigger as far as guarding is concerned, and it's just an extremely solid option to improve the defense of this deck that this deck is kind of built upon. And then let's get into the grade 1s. So for the grade 1s, grade 1 line, again, pretty simple. For Knight of Silicus, my brother pulled an SP copy, which was amazing. So for Knight of Silicus, grade 3 searcher, and he's actually a very good first turn ride, because if you have no face-up damage at any point, he's a 13k hitter. So on your turn 1, when you swing with him, if you're going second, he's 13k, so your opponent can't toss down a trigger for a no pass if their deck is not, if they're not planning on using counterblast or anything on their turn 2, and they just kind of want to preserve them taking damage for a turn. This guy is like, okay, well, a trigger means it's a 1 to pass, so if I hit it, I hit it. You have to guard me with a heal trigger if you don't want to take any damage. So, very solid option. Other than that, search top 5 for a grade 3. Simple, easy, whatever. And then we play 4 copies of Pongal. Again, like I explained, on play, soul charge. If you soul charge a trigger unit, he gains 5k power. Now, the important thing about this is why we also look at running Akane is when you call him to the board, whether it's between your turn 1 or your turn 2, maybe with Akane, or you just want to call him out, or at any point, you can my brother has done this quite often in the last few days. On grade 2, he has soul charged an Altmile, which means you soul charge an Altmile, then you ride Aerial Divine Knight Altmile, and all of your skills are live, so you don't have to re-ride an Altmile. You just have everything live: the 10k power, 5k shield, and then the extra crit, because the extra crit is what you need another Altmile in the soul for. All your grade 2s have an extra crit from your turn 3 onward. I had him do this. He went first. He soul charged the Altmile off of riding the Akane, and then his turn 3 was just so explosive. He had 6 damage across the board, and it was just one of those things where it's like, okay, you're tossing 40k plus columns at me with 2 damage each. This is hard to block. So yeah, definitely love Pongal in this deck for right now. And then we run 2 copies of Knight of Secret Plan Watch. So the reason why we run is like your grade 1s are not exactly important, right? But there's some times where your opponent can damage deny you. You're sitting on Aerial Divine and Altmile. You don't have a Liverot in hand or anything like that, so you're not going to be able to get certain cards to the board after guarding. And so sometimes you'll have to call down a grade 1 as a booster. Well, what he does is if you have no face-up damage, he gains intercept and can intercept from the back row. So again, what we chose for this part of the grade 1 lineup is just a tech card that would improve our guarding if we need to have him on the board at any time. Again, if you can see what the concept of what we're trying to do with this deck is, we want to maximize. We're looking at adding in certain tech cards, Lucas and Watt, in order to help improve the defensive capabilities of this deck to kind of play to what that style is, and then on offense, we'll let Aerial Divine and Altmile do what he does for your offense. And now on to triggers. Alright, so triggers are pretty simple. 4 crit, 8 crit, 4 draw, and 4 heal, and then our 4 heal, and then our starter. We did try out the Sentinel crit in the deck. But the reason why, and we did try to, and I know that one of our subscribers here, Adis, really, I enjoyed playing with the 12 crit version of this deck. But after a lot more testing at locals and experience in the in a tournament setting, with what decks we were playing, we have 7 Gear Chronicle players at local, 7 Next Stage / Chrono Fang players. Pretty much everybody has Next Stage, and like 2 people have Chrono Fang. But Yeah, we have a lot of gear comp players there. I play Asha. We got another player that plays Asha. There's a lot of decks that can hit certain power numbers, especially gear players who, will go Force One. And the Sentinel crit trigger, while it's nice to have a 30k shield, the draw trigger helps with one, getting cards to hand. Two, it provides you a perfect shield. So when I swing with like a 68k Asha, because I use Antero to pump everything up, that throwing down the crit Sentinel is not going to do much, because then you're going to have to commit extra cards. Whereas the perfect shield helps for decks that are going to be hitting those higher numbers. And seeing that we are in a force meta, and we're going to be continuing in a force meta up until the Butterfly Moonlight set. These draw PGs are just so much more important, and these crit Sentinels I feel will be better suited for a protect deck, something like Susano that's coming out soon, maybe Night Rose, Dark Irregulars, things like that, but because they can generate perfect guards. But these crit Sentinels right now don't really work exactly too well. Yes, it improves the fact that you're going to be hitting crits on your checks, but you're going to be sacrificing perfect defense for a card in which you're only going to match a certain Vanguard's power, or your opponent is still always going to have a chance to break it. And there are a lot of times where you can just toss this down and your opponent's going to just toss everything on the Vanguard and then break it, where you could have just simply threw a perfect guard down, and then you didn't have to worry about that. And I'm looking at people who play Force 1 with next stage, use the, if they go Force 2, they can have the Steam Breath, they can do the Mamene and Smoke Gear combo to really power up that column, and then swing in, and that shield is not going to exactly hold up. You're going to end up committing more guards from your hand that you probably want to save for Chrono Jet. Yes, this is why we test quite a bit against what we would expect the meta to be. We figure things like this out. And the perfect guards have really just been an improvement over the crit Sentinels for right now. Maybe when we go into an Excel meta again, that we'll start to see these crit Sentinels be played in more decks as you come up against more Excel matchups, because dropping one card as opposed to two cards is always a good is always a good thing against decks that get off a multitude of attacks and have a wider board. But that's the deck profile, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. As far as our grade 2 techs, we are considering like putting in like a blaster blade, like maybe cutting a card out from somewhere in our lineup, throwing in a blaster blade or something like that to add to a little bit of field control if we need to get rid of something. But again, the grade 2 line's kind of wide open for how you want to tech it out. We just wanted to go for more of improving the defensive mechanic of this deck, which is what this deck really rests on. So I hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile. Look forward to some matches. Me fighting against this dag and whatnot. My brother's been killing me, but yeah, definitely look forward to some matches. Like, comment, subscribe, follow the twitch.tv/cardfightking, and we'll see you in the next video, which should be an updated Asha deck profile, because I have a lot of things I want to say about the deck and my first experience with it. So thank you guys for watching. Aqualife baby, we're out.